Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FIDE Grand Prix in Berlin. It is time for the finale. It's Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces versus Levon Ranyan with the black pieces today for game number 1. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope your week is off to a good start with some good Gotham content. And if I look any different, it's not because I'm wearing my best impersonation of a traffic cone hoodie. I'm actually now a proud dog owner. Yesterday, Lucy and I brought home a puppy. His name is Benjamin. I've never actually talked about that on Twitter yet. I did post some photos on my Twitter, though. I only got 2 hours of sleep last night because, we just brought him home. So he whined the entire night. So this energy in this recap is a little bit lower than usual. Bear with me. He will make appearances, but right now I'm mad at him. Just kidding. He's actually asleep. So let's jump into today's game. Today's game was just amazing, almost as amazing as a whining puppy for the entire night. But this is slightly better. Okay, so e4 played by Hikaru. Now, Levon is just an absolute monster in this event. He also has the fourth highest rating ever, 2835. When he's on, he's on. And Hikaru, when he's on, is also quite on. So it's just very interesting to see, like, these dudes have played many games against each other, and Hikaru opts to go into the Rui. Now, Levon is a guy who's gonna like go into the mainline Ruis. Hikaru's current repertoire is the Berlin with black, like just ultra practical, make the draw with black, go play with white. But Levon wants a game. He plays a6, he plays knight f6, and this is just a pure mainline Rui Lopez defense. Black plays b5, bishop b3, and now the main question is, will black castle? Or will black play d6? Will black play d6? Castles is played, and if you remember anything at all about the World Championship match, it was Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. And if the second thing you remember about anything about the World Championship match, it's that a lot of these move orders were implemented by Magnus to play the move d5, which is the Marshall. If you remember, in these structures, white wants to go c3, d4, one of the most complex structures in all of chess. If you want to learn it just for the fun of learning it, please do. If you want to learn it for because you want to be the world champ and you want to play what they play, no, don't do that. Just don't do that. Go at your own pace, play your Londons and your Gambits and have a great time. Not everybody shares that opinion though. So the point is that c3, d5, right? This is the point of the Marshall. And the mainline Marshall, black sacrifices this pawn, gets c6, and laser beams white on these diagonals. The queen comes to h4. And yeah, I mean, it's very scary, but white is actually fine and a pawn up, but normally the games are drawn. Now here, white has employed setups called anti-marshals because white is a chicken. I'm not saying that Hikaru is a chicken. I'm saying the overall meta here is that the Marshall is just too good for black. So white chickens out and doesn't play the Marshall. Now, you could play knight c3, which prevents d5, but you really don't want to commit the knight here this early until black makes some concessions. So Hikaru chooses h3. He has played h3 before, but I looked in the database, and he is an a4 guy. Now, he might disagree with this because he's been making recaps of his own games. He knows his own repertoire far more thoroughly than I do. He might say, I like a4 recently. I used to play this. In the most recent, like when I sorted the database by elo of white, every time I saw Hikaru, he was playing for a4. In fact, he's played it against Levon before, obviously. He's also played it against Ding Liren, and the most recent time he played h3 was Ding Liren Singfield Cup. So a very, very good tournament. And so the point is that, you just prevent some stuff like bishop g4 in the future, and you wait for black. And so once the bishop goes to b7, d5 is a little bit more flaccid, so you're not really worried about it, and you play d3, a3 because you want to put your knight on c3 after all. These are the concessions that you wanted black to make, and now you are going to put your knight on c3. This is a very fluid and amazing Spanish, and now black has a choice. So Ding Liren played Rook e8 against Hikaru in 2019 Singfield Cup. This is the main line. This has been played more than any other move, maybe not in the online database, but in the over-the-board database. Queen d7 is another move. Queen d7 is a very flexible move, but the kind of major idea, from what it seems, is to free the d8 square and to reroute the knight to e6. Which, again, like, now that we know that some of the best players in the world have played like this, makes sense, but when you just first look at Queen d7, you're just like, what the F is that? Like, why? Who is doing this? Makes you think, like, the first person to play knight d8, knight e6, like, were they a genius or did someone slap them? So knight c3. Now, the interesting thing, Hikaru spent 11 minutes on this move, which is a pure sign of an individual who is trying to not remember maybe the exact move, but trying to recall games, like famous games, ideas within those positions. Because actually, Aronian has played this approach like this. And the truth is that players seem to think white can get an advantage here, but only one way. Players seem to think that this is just a little bit too passive. You are retreating your forces out of the middle, which means white should pounce with the move d4. There are many games in this position after d4, and the idea is that once you get the knight here, I transfer my knight to f5 with some pressure. Now, obviously, black is still trying to liquidate. It's this constant push and pull of top-level, chess where white is trying to prove an advantage and black is trying to not allow them to prove an advantage. And, white is insulting their opponent verbally, and black is responding by kicking them under the table, and white is responding by calling over the arbiter, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to drown that joke on too much longer. I'm going to get angry comments. And I'm going to pin those angry comments, and then people are going to write in those comments that I'm insecure and can't take criticism, and then there's going to be like a 200 comment argument. It's going to be amazing. Really smart strategy to get engagement in your comment section. So Hikaru thinks for a while, and he doesn't play d4. He plays knight h2, which actually seems to be a novelty. Now, here's the good news. If you play the move knight h2, then probably your opponent doesn't really know what he's doing too much anymore because it's a novelty. It's a brand new move. The bad news is, if you play a move that's brand new in a position where you are on your own, this is not prep, in a position that's been played about 40 times and has a proven approach, it's probably not that good. So that's that meaning it's not losing, but meaning you're not going to get advantage. So Hikaru's idea is to put the knight on g4. The king gave the horse a kissy, like on the cheek. Not the king's not weird. Knight g4 is to trade the knight on f6 and then put his queen there and kind of not allow black to move the knight or the queen. Now, in all that, did you notice what black did? He played king h8. Why did Levon play king h8? What? His king's trying to glitch off the map? You ever play video games like back in the day when you could just glitch maps? I used to do that in this game called Combat Arms. Because I played Maple Story. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I'm tired, all right? I'm trying to keep myself awake. Anyway, Combat Arms used to try to glitch off the map. The point is that you're trying to get out of this diagonal, and you're trying to play f5. Now, king h8 is listen to me, chess, serious talk now. King h8 is very common by black in a lot of these Rui positions, because black wants to play f5. So clearly Levon is feeling the position a bit more comfortably. He's up like 15, 20 minutes on the clock. So what's the game plan for black? He's going to bring his rook, support the knight. He's going to play g6 to try to play f5, move the bishop, play f5. Now, just so you understand how quickly this can fall apart for white, because you look at this, you're like, well, we traded knights and we each have 8 pawns, equal position. Look how fast it can fall apart if you just play natural moves. Okay, bishop e3. Okay, g6, rook d1, bishop d8 or bishop g7, doesn't really matter. Bishop g7 actually blocks the g file, so I'm going to go bishop d8. And now it's hard here to play like a useless move for white, but let me just say we passed the move. Well, obviously this is not going to happen. I'm just showing you what's going to happen. F5. And when you open the file, you can still temporarily relieve the pressure, but you just get completely swarmed. Like you just get demolished and you lose. You just lose on the spot. So within about like 6-7 moves, white can just completely be in a lost position. But in 6 to 7 moves, black can absolutely not be in a lost position. So it's actually black who is now playing for the initiative. So Levon has the upper hand in this game. Hikaru plays a4. Now, a4 is an interesting move because it's intending to do one of two things. You're trying to attack on the queen side, considering your opponent has completely abandoned it, but you're also trying to get your opponent to play more defensively and block their bishop. Without this bishop, there is far less of an attack. Levon chooses to play b4, and now white succeeded in one of his missions, which is attacking on the queen side. Knight e2, and maybe you're going to soften up the b-pawn. Maybe you're going to, soften up the diagonal. Levon plays queen back to d8. Hikaru softens up the queen side, and now we have g6. We know black's game plan. I already told it to you. I told you black's game plan. And again, you play like rook b1, for example. Rook b1, knight c5, bishop c2. Like black is going to move this bishop to g7. And if you play one move, f5 comes, and white is like on the verge of just getting blasted. So you have to just constantly restrict your opponent. Bishop d5. So he goes for a trade, and Levon goes to c5. And now Hikaru chooses to sack material. If he plays queen c4, it does guard the pawn, but after e4, black just comes alive, and white's pieces are asleep in their bunkers. What was that battle in the American Revolutionary War when the people attacked people while they were asleep in their bunkers? It was like unethical at the time. You like back in the day, you had to like wake up enemy soldiers to go fight. Did you know that? It's like absurd. Anyway, bishop to h6 is what Hikaru opts for. He's like, nah, I'm good. You can have my pawn. And in the time that you spend gobbling this pawn, right, because danger levels, so chop, 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 now I am in a position where queen c4 doesn't come with the same problems. Queen c4 here Every piece of black's is activated, but queen c4 here, black has to be passive. For example, queen c8, what the hell is that? That queen's not scaring anybody. I'm gonna play rook b1, rook b1, I'm gonna sing it out loud, Levon's gonna get pissed off, and where's the queen gonna move? So it's not the worst position in the world. White is relying on superior activity, so White gave a pawn back for superior activity. Now Levon has to prove that he's actually better. He plays queen a8. That's definitely a good move, because if you take on c7, which was your entire intention, you give up d5, black now has all the activity and the extra pawn, and queen d2 is coming, and yeah, I mean, it's basically like Hikaru borrowed money from Levon, didn't pay him back, and didn't really think that they would make it to the Grand Prix final, where it's just both of them in a room. So, rook b1 is played by Hikaru, and Levon plays rook b8. So he's trying to trade rooks and get to this endgame. Now, again, queen takes a6 looks like a free pawn, but after this, king h2, and probably e4, black is too active. So his pieces are not just active, like white's queen is active, but it's not attacking anything. These pieces are not just active, they're active but actually scary. So, not very good for white. So what does Hikaru do here? Very professional move, rook b4. The point of rook b4 is that when rooks see each other on the same rank like this, if you move your rook up a little bit and it gets taken, you improve your position. He's going to play cb, and now a and b pawns are friends. And that's what he needs, because maybe he can overwhelm on this side of the board and crash through. Endgames are all about that, finding that pawn imbalance. A true pawn imbalance. Like, this is a pawn imbalance, but white is never getting through and black is never getting through because there's en passant, right? So but this is a real imbalance, because if you keep an outside pawn, right, as long as you don't take with the pawn, then that's good for white. So rook b4, king g7, and now we have the knight transfer to the middle, and I don't know what the heck is going on here. I mean, Hikaru has somehow solved all his problems. Like, if you were to follow the top line of Stockfish, it thought both players were playing very well, but Hikaru had less time, and he's a pawn down, and, you know, Levon's going to play f5, e4, and put his bishop back on f6. So Hikaru plays a5. a5 is called fixing. He's fixing that pawn on that square, so it's never going to leave his sight. Levon plays queen a7. Computer here wanted rook c8 with the idea to play c5. So with the idea, like, for example, g3, c5. Now, maybe not exactly here because of knight takes d6, but in the future, like, and maybe like to kick the knight out first and then try to play for c5. So like knight d2, c6, or even e4 first, just to not let the knight move, and then try to play for c5. Rook c8 is a butt ugly move, okay? I'm just gonna say it right now. I cannot say it more professionally. That move looks disgusting, because it looks like your rook is just gonna be permanently in prison. It's not, because you can get it out, d5, bishop, rook, but also queen c6 is not a very good move. But like, what is this? I mean, if you play c5 and white just backs up, then what? Okay, I mean, okay, you get to play c5, and? So, but again, queen a7 is a bit more human. And it looks like he's playing all the right moves. He's playing f5, you know, knight d2. He's taking, he's playing e4. Bishop is gonna get active. He's still a pawn up. But it's somehow still okay for white. Like, Hikaru's not going away. And the crazy thing is, here Levon can just do nothing. He can just make a draw by shuffling back and forth. But I told you, Hikaru's trying to win the game. Like, hidden in all this is that actually, if white can get a chance, he's gonna win the game. It's like the guy who's been held captive, you know? When he breaks out of the thing, he's gonna punch the guy in the face. He's not gonna be like, well, that was kind of inconvenient of you to do. I'm gonna leave now. It's like in the movie, he's gonna overtake, right? James Bond style. So king g2, Levon sacks his pawn and just plays king f7. And Hikaru's like, you good? h5, and now I'm softening up your pawn structure. Computer here actually thought that queen c6 first, and then sacrificing and infiltrating is better, because white can get to e8. This is what the computer wanted. It wanted the queen on e8 with tempo, and then maybe b5. So try to get to that side of the board and open things up. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to do. Hikaru just decides to play h5 right away. Takes, b5 breaking through, and if this, I mean, listen, again, I wanted to show you before how quickly things can fall apart. I mean, queen b7, and like white is just completely winning. I mean, because this bishop can't fight on the light squares. So even though the bishop is active, it's not, right? Like I just said, it's not actually participating in the correct section of the game. So here Levon goes nuts and plays e3 right back. Now both guys are trying to make queens. And if you take on e3, black is winning, because b takes a6 is met with h4, bishop e5, and it looks like you deliver a queen, for example, king g6, a7, but check and you get mated. So for example, king g1, bishop g5, a8 queen, bishop e3. So black mates you even though you have an extra queen. So it's not clear who's actually going to win this game, okay? It's not clear who's going to win this game at all. E3 played, Hikaru thinks for a little bit. There was some computer line with queen d3 here. We're not even going to get into it. Okay, we will. ef2, queen f5, king g7, queen f2, queen b7, check, king f7, queen to d3, a b5, queen h7, king... Yeah. Shut up, computer. Nobody likes you. Nobody asks for your opinion. So Hikaru doesn't do that. Both players make the 40th move. So now they've both made 40 moves. And it's time for the next stage of the endgame to begin because they get more time. So now they don't play like maniacs. If you just look at this position, it looks like white is just simply winning. I mean, a6, queen b7, a7, a8, queen. But how does black activate? What does he do? He does it with tempo. E2. E2 check. So now the white king has to take the bait. Like, if you're going to be stubborn, you might just get forced out, right? So you just take. Now queen a7, and I'm threatening this. Even though it's not a check, I get dangerously close to your king, and I'm carrying a blunt weapon. Like, it's going to get bad, right? So even Hikaru can take on g6 with check. King g6. Take on c7 with check and play a7. We've already talked about this. There's a draw opportunity here at least, but black could also try to win. So knight back to d2 and queen f4. Now, white here can come back to protect, can go forward to attack the king, or can try to make a queen. The issue is that black is just in time. Bishop g5, and this would be pure guess the elo content if you went, haha, I make a queen, stupid, and you hang mate. And then, you know, and then you lose like 10 rating points, and then you send me an email of this game going, this is the craziest game ever, dude. Please make a video out of this. A lot of people have done that, and if you're guilty of that and you sent me a bad game, be ashamed of yourself. So, queen a5. Hikaru comes back, defends his knight. He's a square away from queening. Only one move here for black that doesn't lose. There's no checks. There's no checks for black, and you're about to queen. What's the move? What does black do? Black can't take because the queen comes in it. What the heck do? You block the queen. b4. Now white has only one move. Queen a2. Now black has also only one move. b3. Look at this incredible move. The point is that if you take with the knight, there's check. There's perpetual check. It doesn't look like it, but there's a perpetual. So Hikaru goes back to a5. Again, you can't take because after take, only one guy's queen is actually making it through, right? So queen e3, queen, check, and the king is boxed in by the slimmest of margins by the b3 pawn. And even though you can play knight f1, you actually very triumphantly hang a mate if you do this. You lose up a queen. So, good job. Good job, you. You lost the game up a queen. Wouldn't be the first time, or the 10th. King e2, queen e3, and the players make a draw. Oh, I love draws like that. Not all draws are created equal. All right? I'm just going to say it right now. I very rarely have an opportunity to make videos on just one chess game in a tournament. Like in a tournament. I know I make one game in a video before, but I'm saying like in one of these tournaments, they don't usually just finish with a head-to-head. Except the World Championship. So, very exciting first game. Levon just, savage with the preparation. Hikaru, beautiful idea to fight back knight versus bishop, create the outside passer, almost give himself some winning chances. And it all comes down to either tomorrow's classical game, or if it's a draw, it comes down to 2 days from now. Hopefully I get some more sleep. Hopefully you get some sleep. Also get some fresh air outside. And you will see the dog in a video soon. And expect more big things here in the Gotham community. Much love. I have nothing else to say. Get out of here.